So it's only been not even 4 days, it's Friday, that the Olympic opening ceremonies have caused much discussion around the world, especially within the Catholic sphere. And I know you're probably already tired hearing of it, and I was not intending to talk about it, and I didn't want to talk about it until there was a released statement from the IOC regarding the event. Now, there was claimed there was an apology, but if you really read it, it's that classic, I'm sorry that you are offended, that not apologizing for any wrongdoing, but I'm sorry you took it the wrong way. But I think it's very critical that I respond to what they have claimed, that this is not about the Last Supper, because there's some very important points here that I don't see anybody answering. First of all, there are some things that they stated, and they keep focusing on that it was not an attack on the Last Supper, but there's no addressing of some of the other items before I get to the Last Supper. They do admit that the headless woman was Marie Antoinette, and they were quick to say that she was full of treason, conspiracy, put to death from stealing from the state. Actually, they showed her heartless character by saying, we have let them eat cake. Showing no concern for the poor and the poverty, and this is one of the reasons she was put to death. Actually, historically, she did not say that. Marie Antoinette did not say, let them eat cake. This is a classic example of what was happening to the French. It was the end of the Christian monarchies in Europe. The French Revolution began that, and actually World War I was a confirmation or the conclusion of the elimination of Catholic monarchies in Europe. This was the agenda. And so they start by villainizing Marie Antoinette, who was actually a very good queen. The problem was the state was now becoming God, and human reason was replacing God. And as I said, the World War I was that fulfillment of the French Revolution. Now, they said it was not a depiction of the Last Supper, but an ancient Greek party called a bacchanal, and that this is what it was portraying. Actually, if you go back and watch it, they portrayed both. First, these drag queens posed in what was almost perfect alignment with the 12 at the dinner table of the Last Supper. In fact, even the positions, the angles of the head, the arms being out were all almost identical if you see the pictures posted next to each other. So I don't know how you could deny that. It is true that after that, then they went into this promiscuous act of the party called the Bacchanal. And so they actually portrayed both, the Last Supper first, and then this promiscuous party, the Bacchanal. So yeah, when they say it was portraying the Bacchanal, they're half right. What they're leaving out, it was that they also mocked the Last Supper prior to that. No mention at all of the 10-year-old child that was up there near that table with a man that was portraying his body parts. There's no mention of that in this apology or the statement from the Olympics. They said that it was to honor the Greek god of wine, Dionysus. The wine is also the Greek, he is also the Greek god of ecstasy. Well, the thing is, they're admitting they're honoring these gods and goddesses. Well, these god and goddesses are pagans, and go to St. Paul, who said, if you worship a pagan god, you are worshiping demons, period. Now, the Roman name for the Greek god Dionysus, the god of pleasure, is Bacchus. He was the blue man here in this, what you could call opening ceremonies. Now, they also said the horseman wasn't death, but the horseman was Sequana, the goddess of the scene. Well, that was the daughter of Dionysus. Again, we are worshiping these pagan goddesses, and it was a symbol of resistance. What was that resistance? The French Revolution, and what did it do? Destroy Catholicism in France. So this is an attack or an honor of the attack on the Catholic Church. not this benign, innocent party that the Olympics are trying to portray it was. They say it was based on a 17th century Dutch painting. Well, if you look at the Dutch painting, that also is mocking the Last Supper. So if you're imitating the Dutch painting is mocking the Last Supper. And so it's just so crazy. But, and this Dutch paint, or this painting was what they claim they were honoring. Well, it's tied together. Now, if this is true, all they are saying that this had nothing to do with the Last Supper, here is your smoking gun. The woman or man, whatever, the person in the middle, I guess a woman because her name was Barbara Butch, that was portraying the Christ-like figure, admitted and had a post on her Instagram account, which has since been removed. And on her Instagram account had the Last Supper painting. So now if this is not about the Last Supper, why did the front and center character, this Barbara Butch, have on Instagram a painting of the Last Supper with the words, oh yes, the new gay testament? It has now been removed. It's been removed since the Olympics have changed their story that this is not an attack on the Last Supper. But to the IOC, I ask the question, if it is not an attack on the Last Supper, why did your main character, Barbara Butch, have on Instagram, which has now been removed, a painting of the Last Supper saying, oh yes, we have achieved our goal, the gay New Testament? Now, I want to finish by saying a lot of people have been fooled by the innocence and seemingly benign nature of drag queens. Basically, this was a show of drag queens. This is what basically it was. They've been around for a long time, but now are shown in our society to be rather benign, lovable creatures like RuPaul. Innocent, lovable, bring your children, they'll teach them how to read. Actually, this may not be as innocent as you think. Now, in one sense, I think you could say that maybe this is not a direct attack on the Eucharist or even the Last Supper. I can see there's a logic to that argument. Going back through this in much detail, speaking with some of our priests, it doesn't seem that it's an actual attack directly on the Eucharist. And so I will give that credit, or maybe even the Last Supper. But what it is attack on is Catholicism as a whole. Why? Because this whole movement is coming from what was and is called the queer theory. This was started by Michel Foucault, who's a French activist, and it really is an attack on Catholicism, whom they see as the oppressor of their sexual morals. I don't know how you could use that word, morals, but their sexual activity, maybe. Now, at the top of this hierarchy are normal heterosexual marriages, man and a woman, and I use the word normal. I know I'm going to get attacked for this because it's how God defined it, between man and a woman. So at the top is this heterosexuals, marriages, man and a woman at the top, and then you have, as you go down to the bottom, the deviants, the pedophiles, bestiality at the bottom. Isn't it crazy we're even having this conversation? It really is. It's really crazy. But souls are at stake. I got a lot of letters saying, Father, why are you wasting your time on this? Souls are at stake. But at the bottom are these deviants that are trying to eliminate the laws. Their goal is to elevate this deviancy up to normalcy. And the drag queens are their evangelizers. This is their own admission. I'm not making this up. They state this. Gail Rubin and others, when you read their work, this Michel Foucault, Their goal is to elevate this deviancy and to eliminate the laws protecting children and others engaging in bestiality. It's to normalize it. Why the attack on Catholicism? Because Catholicism calls that what it is, evil. That's why it must be eliminated in their eyes. That's why they are trying to turn it upside down. And they're using the innocence and the lovableness of the drag queens. They are the evangelists of this queer theory. They are not harmless fun. They are not people you should take your children to be reading books. That is an agenda to indoctrinate our children. This is the crisis in a proportion that the world has not seen before. Not so much like World War II, where there was a crisis of military takeover, but this is a takeover of the soul. And so we posted Sunday a video. It's already almost near 1 million views. Thank you for sharing. Many good, some bad comments. And I apologize because people were very upset the email that I listed didn't work. I don't know if that's that they changed it or what, but I apologize for that. And we've done our research and we have found an operating email that is working. If you'd like to voice, as Bishop Barron said, voice, be heard, it is now called pressoffice@olympic.org, olympic.org. And so that's where you can send an email. Is press office, one word, @olympic.org. And so we apologize for that. And that caused a lot of confusion. And so we need to pray. Today is the feast day. It's not listed in the Ordo, but the feast day of Solanus Casey. Solanus Casey is one of my top 5. I always talk about my big 5, top 5 saints, along with St. Louis IX, the only king of France ever to be canonized, St. Charbel, and of course always, Mary and Joseph, of course, and St. Faustina. But Solanus Casey is a perfect example for us to turn to in these times. He lived quite a bit in Detroit, and so I would go to his tomb there in some of the tough areas of Detroit, and everybody would say, "Father, you're crazy going down there. It's not safe. What are you doing?" I loved it down there. I would go down there, talk with the homeless, talk with the people. I was never afraid, because I think Blessed Solanus Casey is guarding that area. And he's the perfect example of humility, surrendering our will and pride to do the will of God. The whole issue here of what we're dealing with in all this ceremonies and Olympics and the French Revolution has to do with only one thing: pride. It's ironic that it's called Pride Month in June, but let us pray and ask for God's protection, especially if you are making a stand. If you are making a stand, be not afraid. Stand for what is right. We don't have to be violent. We're not going to destroy things. That's ridiculous. That's not the Catholic way. But the Catholic way is to pray, do penance and reparation, and offer this Mass for the opening of hearts. And let us pray to St. Solanus Casey for his intercession. God bless you.